Things are gonna get crazy!
Most everyone's mad here.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another exciting episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. How are you all doing, everybody? I hope you all slept well. You all had some good rest, because I can tell you right now, unfortunately, last night I did not. Oh boy, it was a little bit rough on my end, but I'm gonna do the best I can in order to go and move on with the day and really make the most out of this episode, because right now, that is my top priority, to go and give you guys the best episode that I could possibly make with the materials that I have. I know that I've been doing this for quite some time. You know, that's always the energy that I want to go and give you with AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast, but now I want to go and try to do that for sure, considering that, well, you know, I have that extra obstacle. Oh, and by the way, thank you so much, Daniel, for the for being the new fish of today's episode. Very kind of you, sir. But yeah, basically, even though, I have some little hurdles of my own, I want to do the best I can to make this a fun-filled episode, especially with the materials that I have for you today. Because, my God, I don't know what happened, but last week we had a bunch of animation news that came out, a bunch of trailers, a bunch of announcements, and all that kind of stuff. I even had to go and make a bit of sacrifices. I was ready to go and talk about the announcement of the sequel to the Garfield movie, but it's just that there have been some other things that have been announced that, you know, it's worth talking about. But with all that said, we are going to have a fun-filled episode over here. Oh, and actually, before we do get into that, there is one more thing that I want to go and speak about. It's just a little bit of a shout out, but it is unfortunate to go and hear about this. And unfortunately, this is the case with the recent news about James Carter Cathcart. Recently, voice actor Ooh, excuse me. A little bit of saliva just tried to come up my throat. But as I was saying, yes, James Carter Cathcart has unfortunately passed away recently at the young age of 71 due to throat cancer. And for those of you who don't know James Carter Cathcart, he is actually not just a voice actor, but he was heavily involved in anime, specifically with a lot of the ADR work that goes into it, and doing a lot of prominent voices. In fact, his biggest credential is actually working on the Pokemon anime for many years, not just being the original voice of Gary Oak, but he has also done other voices as well, including Professor Oak, James of Team Rocket, and Meowth, as well as providing his voice in other animes, such as being the voice of Weevil Underwood in Yu-Gi-Oh!, Vector the Crocodile in Sonic X, and maybe a few of the games. I could be wrong on that, but I know primarily he was in Sonic X, and also Sir Gallant in Kirby's Right Back at Ya. And that's just a few examples of his works. And I will say, as someone who did grow up watching a lot of the 4Kids dubs anime, it is pretty sad to hear. And not to mention, it was not that long ago that Rachel Lillis has also passed away. So it's sad to hear more of these people are no longer with us, especially the kind of voice actors that I actually did grow up watching. So yeah, it's very unfortunate to hear. And I do hope, in the case of James Carter Cathcart, that may he rest in peace, and that his voice will always be remembered, no matter which role it may be, or no matter which Pokemon that he may have voiced. All right, so with that said and done, I think it is time that we shall go into the actual episode itself. So without further ado, now I would like to pass this on to the chat wall, and I'd like to ask you all, are you ready for today's episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast? Let me hear it, folks. Are you all ready? let me see here now. Yes. Yep. Oh, someone even mentioned, Maddie Blaustein is another one. Like, it's been a while that Maddie passed away, but yeah, she's another great example of a 4Kids actor. Anyways, yeah, it looks like everybody is prepared. Everybody is all set. That is wonderful to hear. And so, with that said, it is now time that we shall go and get things started. And with our first story that I have for you today, we're actually going to be looking into a teaser trailer. It's going to be short. It's not that long. It'll just give us a tiny taste of what's going to be in store. However, let's just say that Christmas is going to be coming early, because we know that in terms of movie theaters, the biggest holiday gift that it will be giving to us will be Avatar: Fire and Ash. But at the same time, there will be an animated film that's going to be on the side that younger viewers can go and watch during the season. It's going to be like last time, with Avatar: The Way of Water, and then at the same time, you got the release of Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. So from there, hopefully, maybe this character can go and recreate that magic of Puss in Boots. But will they actually do so? Well, we will find out, as we're going to go and check out the teaser trailer for the upcoming animated feature, the SpongeBob Movie, The Search for SquarePants.
This Christmas, something big is coming to theaters.
Do you feel it?
Nothing. But don't let me slow you down.
And that is the SpongeBob Movie, Search for SquarePants, not The Search for SquarePants, to which it will be coming soon to theaters on December 19th. And as you guys probably know, of course, I am a major SpongeBob fan, and as a kid, I actually grew up watching the early episodes of SpongeBob, and from there, at the very least, even though I haven't been watching any of the new episodes, I have been following the movies, especially for the reviews. And I will say that so far the quality seems to be dipping. Like, it started off on a very strong note with the first movie, and then you got the second film, which was still very solid, and then the third movie was like, and then you got the Netflix movies. Like, suddenly you got the Sandy Cheeks movie, which in my opinion was an absolute disaster. And then you got the Plankton movie that came out earlier this year, and that one felt more like an extended episode more so than an actual movie. But honestly, at the very least, it was an improvement from Sandy Cheeks, so at least that was something. But now, in the case of Search for SquarePants, I will say that for my first impression with the little things that we have seen, I do give it that there are some parts of it where I can see how this is like a bigger deal, how this feels like this is made for like a full-on movie and not just a Netflix feature. It's not like the kind of film in which, it's not necessarily just sidelined that they're just going to throw it out on streaming, like either on Netflix or Paramount Plus. No. This is a story that I can feel like they really want to go and emphasize that they want this on the big screen and try to really portray it as like a major deal. Even though there have been previous episodes where, yes, SpongeBob, Patrick, and the rest, like they would go on adventures with the Flying Dutchman and stuff like that. But this time around, like they really want to emphasize that this is a SpongeBob-themed pirate movie, that now they really want to emphasize that part. Although, funny enough, it's kind of like that one episode, like a little bit early on. I forgot the name of it, but you guys probably know which one I'm talking about. When SpongeBob, Patrick, and Squidward, they were in the Flying Dutchman ship and they have to be a part of the Flying Dutchman's crew. So, yeah, some people are saying Shanghai. Was that the episode? Yeah, okay, yeah. Shanghai, exactly. It feels like what they're portraying with this is like a full-on like movie version of Shanghai, but you could tell how the stakes are like very high and that they really want to go all out, especially with SpongeBob and the gang, where they are entering upon the underworld. So from there, okay, I can see where they're going. And not to mention, one thing I will give it credit is that I'll admit some of the jokes, they're pretty cute. They're actually pretty fun. I'm not going to say that they're flat out hilarious, and I won't say that all of them work. Like, I'll admit, like, at the end, like, when Squidward did that underwear joke, it's kind of like eye-rolling. It barely even feels like a joke in the first place. But I will admit, like, at the beginning, you do have some fun jokes that do come out. Like, one of my personal favorites I'll give, it's like right at the beginning where Patrick just jumps on Gary, like, over here.
Let's go!
Okay, I'll admit that one was actually pretty cute. I did like that. And there are a few from time to time that you'll see that, it is a lot of fun, that, they do emphasize on the comedy of it, and some of it does actually work. Again, I won't say that it is flat out hilarious, but at least it will be enough to make this feel enjoyable and to show that there could be some potential to this. And not to mention, there is also the animation, which, that's one thing I've noticed with all of these SpongeBob movies, is that every time we get a new SpongeBob feature, they always change up a bit of the style. Like, yes, the aesthetic of it stays true to the SpongeBob movie, or not the SpongeBob movie, but it stays true to the aesthetic of the SpongeBob series as a whole. But with each film that would come out, they always update their look a little bit to try something a little bit different, especially when it comes to the CG of it. Like, when you look at the CG done in Sponge Out of Water, it's completely different than what they did with Sponge on the Run, where they emphasize a lot on the textures and they do that Spider-Verse-like lowering the frame rates upon the animation. Or even with the Netflix films, you see that the style is kind of updated with the Sandy Cheeks movie, or even with the Plankton movie. But with the animation that they have here, it looks like it's leaning a little bit more towards what they did with what they did recently with the Plankton movie. But I will say, like, a lot of it is actually more crisp. It's actually a lot more refined. Like, let's just say that they are treating this like it is a movie made for theaters instead of a movie that they're just going to go and put out on Netflix. Rather it be they gave more animators time in order to go and build up on their craft to make the animation look smooth, to make it look solid, or they gave them a bigger budget so that they can have the technology needed, so that they can have like the materials in order to make a theatrically released SpongeBob movie in order to go and make that work. But I will say the animation, actually, it does look solid so far. But then there is one factor that I have seen SpongeBob fans are actually debating, and they're not 100% sure how they would go and feel. And that is in regards specifically. Oh, actually, beforehand, I want to show you another gag that, another gag I will admit that I did enjoy, but it is one that you could say it's a bit recycled from the original SpongeBob movie. It's like straight after the Gary joke with SpongeBob stepping on Plankton.
Watch where you're going.
Sorry.
Wait, no. Where they...
Like, that, I'll admit, is actually, that was pretty cute. And I think really it's the sound effects that actually did sell it. Like, after SpongeBob just like happily, merrily going along, and like, even though he knows Plankton is on his foot, like, he just still stomps either way, and you hear that crunch. That was funny. But back to what I was saying before, though, what is a concern for SpongeBob fans is specifically in regards to the Flying Dutchman himself. And that is especially the fact that he's not going to be played by his original actor, which, son of a fish. I just looked up his name and it just slipped my mind. It's like, it's a name with three. It's a name with three. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much, chat. Brian Doyle, instead of being played by Brian Doyle Murray, of course, it is going to be played by Mark Hamill. And you can already hear that there is a little bit of a difference between what Brian did and what we hear with Mark's performance. Like, I think it's actually at this part.
Before. the faint of heart.
Like, you can hear that there is a bit of a difference, or for longtime SpongeBob fans, you can hear that, you know, the pitch, or there's something about it that even though it sounds like Mark Hamill is trying to sound like Brian Doyle Murray, he's not actually, you know, he doesn't actually sound 100%. It's not like a, you know, a pure perfect imitation. And one thing that I can guess why they would go with Mark Hamill, I suppose it's mainly because there is one moment where you actually do see, not SpongeBob pooping out his lucky brick. Yeah, it's the fact that we are going to see a live action Flying Dutchman. And here we have Mark Hamill completely dressed up like the Flying Dutchman, and even having a new nose. Like, his nose is shaped exactly like how the Flying Dutchman is. And yeah, that does raise up some questions. And you know what? I don't think I can even show it, because funny enough, I actually chatted with a friend about that little moment there. And he even brought up the nose, how like, yeah, they actually shaped it up to be exactly like the Flying Dutchman in the show. Only problem though, it looks very phallic, and it really doesn't help that there's like this little nub, like a little bit of a crease in between like the tip of his nose. And it's like, yeah, no, that ain't a nose. That is shaped like something else. That is, yeah, that's not, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if either my stream or the video that'll come up on YouTube, if it would be flagged, because I'm showing something quite inappropriate here. But yeah, there's something very off with the Flying Dutchman's nose, or the way that it is crafted, or especially I think it's also like just the camera angle is just, it's very unfortunate that it has to be shot this way, where it's like, bruh, I mean, what else can it be? I mean, with the wrinkles and the tip, it's just honestly, I haven't seen a nose like that since what was it? There was another thing I saw in which the nose was like, it was shaped like that. It was like the kind that I feel like it should have been censored, but it's just, yeah, no, it's just, nah, don't want to deal with that. Yeah, Jumba, thank you. That's what I was thinking. It's like Jumba in the live action Lilo and Stitch remake. It's like, I don't know what it is, but it feels like when you have a villain, you know, like if you're bringing a cartoon villain into live action, somehow you got to shape up the nose in a way that it looks uncircumcised. So yeah, it's not, honestly, I get what you're trying to do, but it's not a good look, I gotta say. But I will say though, overall, I do see some promise. I do see how they're going to go and try to elevate this to make this feel a little bit more than just what we have recently gotten with the SpongeBob Netflix movies. And I'll give it that the animation does look nice, and some of the comedy, I will give it, it's enjoyable. It is pretty cute. But there are some things that, yeah, it does raise up some concerns, honestly. And I don't just mean Mark Hamill's new nose in this movie. So I don't know, like there's not enough for me to fully say if this is going to be awesome or if this is going to be a disappointment. I think like we would need like a full trailer to go and ultimately determine that. But when it comes to my first impression of what we have seen in this teaser trailer, it's like, maybe. Honestly, I'm in a position where I feel like it's maybe. But we'll ultimately wait and see with how things will go with Search for SquarePants, when it will be coming out in theaters on December 19th. All right, so with that said, now I would like to go on to the chat wall. And I'd like to ask you all, how did you feel about the teaser trailer of the Search for SquarePants, or just the SpongeBob movie Search for SquarePants? Did you guys enjoy it? Are you guys excited for this movie? Or are you a little hesitant and you may have some criticisms? Let me know what you think. And also, we might as well go and try out a little bit of a poll over here. We might as well go and try out a little bit of a let me just go and write here. So let me just go and write now. Actually, yeah. Did you actually, yeah. Teaser trailer just say SpongeBob because just say it is type SpongeBob because say it is type SpongeBob yes no alright and with that said let's see what the chat wall say here. With that said let's see what the chat wall the echo happened again here. With that said let's see what the chat. Sorry about that, folks. It's when I go to Twitch. Like when I go on Twitch, somehow it doesn't register that there's the that the audio, like I want it to be mute, but then suddenly on that side it would be turned on. Like I'll show you. Like I have to go and be on Twitch in order to go and actually write down the poll. But from there, I guess it just automatically decides that it'll turn on the audio anyways. But all right, let's go and get back into this. So at least the problem is resolved. So let's see what you all have to say. All right. So we are having a pirate-themed SpongeBob movie. Yeah, sure, why not? The animation looks so much better than the last SpongeBob film since we now have real effects on board instead of Redefine or Mikros. Mark Hamill does a pretty impressive impression of the Flying Dutchman that I can't tell if it's him or Brian Doyle Murphy. And while I don't have anything else to say since this is a teaser, this is going to be an interesting movie, and let's just see how it goes when it comes out. All right, let's see. I'm a SpongeBob stan for a long time now. Love the first two movies as well, and I thought the third movie was just okay. I think the animation style in the third movie was really well done, but this one, why is the animation a downgrade compared to the third? It's well fluid, but not as good as the third movie. I do like that Mark Hamill is voicing the Flying Dutchman in this, and he does sound good so far. I mean, he's Mark Hamill, amazing voice actor. Oh yeah, honestly, I am not doubting his performance. He's going to be incredible, but it's going to be hard, or at least for SpongeBob fans, including myself, it's going to be hard to try to go and like adjust to the new version of the Flying Dutchman or with Mark Hamill's version when for a while we've always been used to the Brian Doyle Murray version. So hopefully it won't be that much of an issue. And I mean, I trust that Mark Hamill is going to provide a great performance, but hopefully it's like, it won't be that much of a problem. But I will say, if he is able to get me on board with his version of the Flying Dutchman, that's going to be major impressive points for the movie itself. All right. Anyways, as a diehard SpongeBob fan, I will admit this looks The animation looks kind of nice, and while he's no Brian Doyle Murray, Mark Hamill is clearly having some fun as Flying Dutchman, but the jokes weigh it down a fair bit. It doesn't look Saving Bikini Bottom bad, but I'll still give it a watch. I just felt a tad underwhelmed. Also, live-action Flying Dutchman's nose. What is with 2025 movies having villains with dicks for noses? I don't know, but I guess that is a thing now. I guess that's the secret trend of 2025. That whenever we have to go and bring in a cartoon character and put it up in live action, we got to make sure that their nose looks very questionable. And by the way, just a quick side note, I just want to mention that it looks like at least most of you actually did enjoy it. We got a little bit of mixed results, but based on the poll here from people who have voted, 61% of you have said that yes, you actually did like the SpongeBob trailer, or and that is compared to the 39% who have actually said no. So very interesting results. So it's a little bit mixed, but leaning a little bit more towards the positive end. So very nice right there. All right, let's see what else we got here. Oh, this is interesting. Hard pass. I bailed on SpongeBob after season 7, and this is not winning me back. I know Paramount can't afford Pixar level animation, but this looks like it was made for a TV movie rather than for theaters. I'm sure the kids who still watch SpongeBob regardless of quality will like it, but it's not for me. Also, thanks for pointing out that lovely little detail of the Dutchman's nose, dude. Now I can't unsee it. Hey, don't blame me. Blame my friend who actually pointed that out to me. I just thought it would be interesting to bring it up. Anyways, I'll just go and read a couple more because it looks like the timer is going to be almost running out. This trailer didn't really impress me. While the animation is decent and Mark Hamill is good as the Flying Dutchman, the humor isn't that great, and it feels more the same with the characters entering the real world. And I've honestly become fed up with the franchise, with Nickelodeon milking it for all it's worth, especially being the third SpongeBob movie within 2 years. I feel like this franchise has absolutely overstayed its welcome. Oh, okay, I see. Interesting. I don't blame you, of course, because sometimes, like, when you see something, like, everywhere repeatedly, it can get annoying. So the oversaturation can be a problem. So I get that. Let's see now. It is pretty shocking. Someone like me is feeling cautiously optimistic. Does it look cool? It does look cool, and some of the humor is fun, but I doubt this would match the quality of the first 3 movies. Not to mention, they really struggled throughout these years with the bad episodes, but since some of the veterans are involved, like Derek Dryman, there is still some hope for it. Also, is it a big deal? All the Neptunes have been played by different actors like Jeffrey Tambor or Matt Berry. Give him a chance. You know what? I'm not going to lie. You actually do bring up a very good point. I mean, it's not the first time that we have seen characters being recasted in SpongeBob. Like King Neptune is actually a wonderful example of that, considering we did have different King Neptunes over the years. So yeah, maybe like a different Flying Dutchman, maybe it wouldn't sound a little bit too off, even though we are in a movie where, like, the original cast is all coming back except for Brian Doyle Murray. Like, I understand where that is weird, but you know what? Like, I understand your argument, and yeah, we definitely should give Mark Hamill a chance. Like, who knows? Like, there's a strong likelihood that he'll come out as one of the better things of the movie. So once again, if you are excited for the I don't know why I keep saying the search for SquarePants, but if you're excited for the SpongeBob movie Search for SquarePants, then keep in mind that the movie will be coming out later this year or at the end of the year on December 19th. All right, so we're going to go on to our first break, and when we do come back, well, speaking of SpongeBob, and since I've mentioned the Sandy Cheeks movie quite often, our next story, we are going to be going to Sandy's home, or at least in Sandy's home state. But it's not necessarily going to be for anything SpongeBob related. We're going to go and see The Return of the King, so stay tuned for that. All right, welcome back. Now, I just need to go and mention to you this right now, but during the break, I was just checking on my phone, just like see little things. And I actually just saw that Disney just uploaded the first preview of the upcoming Walt Disney animatronic that's going to be part of the new show that they're going to have at Disneyland. And I got to say that, whoo, boy, that thing, I don't know. My first impression there is like, oh boy, that honestly looks weird. And like, I don't know if it's like something that feels very impressive or it's just a really off-putting, but I just gotta say that I just saw that thing and it's like, yeah, boy, I don't know how to feel about this. Yeah, it's uncanny. Yeah, a little bit. It's odd, honestly. Disney doing some weird stuff with animatronics. All right, but anyways, I just want to quickly go and mention that right there. But let me get back into the main story that I want to go and talk to you here, or at least for this segment. Yes, we got another trailer that we are going to be checking out. And this is actually going to be in terms of a revival that's going to be coming on Hulu. Now, yes, I know that just right now, I think on the day that I have recorded this, there is actually the new trailer for the Gumball series, or the Gumball revival, that's going to be coming on Hulu and then later on Cartoon Network. But I think I'm going to go and save that for the next episode, because what I'm going to be focusing right over here is going to be another highly anticipated Hulu revival. One that I have talked about before, and we did get a little bit of a small taste of what's going to be to come with this particular revival, and already the hype is on for it. So without further ado, let's go back to Arlen, Texas, as we are now going to be checking out the trailer for the upcoming animated revival of King of the Hill.
Let me hang up and call back.
And that right there is King of the Hill, or at least season 14 of King of the Hill, to which it will be premiering on Hulu and or Disney Plus, depending on where you are from, on August 4th. And previously, I did talk a little bit about how King of the Hill is going to be updated, and not to mention many of the other significant news that did come out, including the next actor who's going to be playing as Dale, considering the passing of Johnny Hartwick, and not to mention the very tragic death of Jonathan Joss, who has played John Redcorn, who unfortunately was murdered due to a hate crime. So there was a lot to go and discuss specifically about King of the Hill over there. But this time around, with this new look that we have here, I gotta say, it really does feel like the OG King of the Hill is coming back, but at the same time, it actually does feel fresh. Now, of course, one thing that is to be expected, and one thing that many people have actually talked a lot about in terms of this series, is how the show is going to be tackling on modern times. Basically, how Hank and Peggy and Bobby, how they will be experiencing the modern era that we are living in right now, and some of the modern social issues that they will go into, but of course, portraying them as the modern American family that is dealing with a little bit of ignorance and trying to do what they can in order to go around some of the modern stuff. Like, one thing I will admit that I actually did laugh at, it was actually talking about gender, and when Hank was faced with the two bathrooms. Like, that right there, I will say, is actually pretty funny.
Huh. Okay. Is that a...
Don't worry, they're both all gender.
Uh-huh. Are we all gender?
Like, that part right there, honestly, I will say it is pretty funny. And it's mainly because you see this from the perspective of older people, how they would go and try to experience and try to understand the changes that are happening in our modern times, and how sometimes they could be a little bit slower to go and comprehend. You know, like, we're talking about like some of the late Gen Xers and no, not late Gen Xers. I mean, early Gen Xers and late baby boomers, how they would try to go and navigate and understand some of the new changes that would occur, including the role of gender. I will admit that joke was actually pretty cute. And even though, like, yeah, even someone like me, I completely understand and I do support like all gender bathrooms and stuff like that. But seeing it in Hank Hill's perspective, like, it doesn't seem like, you could tell he's not bigoted. He's not opposed to it. He's just confused and just trying to understand, like, you know, like, even the delivery of the line, like, are we all gender? Like, that one, I will admit, is pretty cute. And then there's also like the one that they're doing right afterwards, or the joke that they did, and to go and rate their driver, like, you know, like Uber or stuff like that. And Hank Hill goes on a tangent about giving it 4 stars and how 5 stars is not something we should go and give out every day. And honestly, it's like, that's cute. That's fun. That's understandable. But at the same time, though, what really is fascinating about this new update of King of the Hill, it's not just about King of the Hill and we're seeing the Hills facing modern problems. It's also seeing the Hills in a later stage of their life. Now we're seeing Hank and Peggy, they're in their retirement phase. We're seeing Bobby, now he's becoming a young adult. And now he's at the point where he's going through like girl after girl and stuff like that. So dealing with girlfriend issues. And I'm hoping that lawnmower doesn't get caught in the audio over here. Oh boy. I would need to double check on that to see if you would go and hear that. Yeah, but anyways, back to what I was talking about. Yeah, as you were saying, yeah, Bobby is in his dating phase, essentially. So we're seeing them dealing with brand new problems. And it's not just in terms of modern stuff and talking about modern issues and things like that. It's all about the later phase in their lives where now they're retiring and they got to figure out how to go and fill up their time, just like what Hank Hill mentioned at the end of the trailer. Now they got to deal with Bobby being a young adult and, bringing in girls and stuff like that. So we do see like those later stages in life, not to mention seeing the other characters as well with how they're doing and, how they're dealing with their lives, which we got a little bit right at the beginning, which, oh boy, some of them, like, they're doing fine, and then others, well, they ain't doing so hot, as you can see.
Getting a hug, okay? Emotional.
It's been hard with you and Peggy gone, Hank. I might have let myself go a little.
Like that right there, it's like, yep, that should be expected. It's wild, but it's like, are you that surprised though? Ask a King of the Hill fan, they would probably say no. So I will say with this trailer, it really does show, with Bill pretty much that like it does match with Bill's personality with how he can be, especially with his feelings towards Hank and Peggy, and also with his intelligence or with his mental health per se, that he would totally be the kind who would resort to doing something like that. But hey, I'm sure that like once the episode gets going, like he'll be back to his funnel self that people will remember him by. It's not like there's going to be a tragic episode that's just going to be about that. But I will say though, overall though, I think this trailer actually did leave a very good first impression over here. I feel like it actually did very well to go and highlight what's going to be to come with King of the Hill, and not to mention to go and present a lot of the layers that's going to be within. Where yes, this is going to be a revival of King of the Hill. They're bringing back the same show with the same characters that they all love. But on top of the fact that now we're going to see them trying to deal with modern issues and, trying to deal or express a lot of modern social commentary, where we see Hank and Peggy trying to do the best they can to go and understand the new world that's around them. Especially, you got to keep in mind that they did add the plot line where before Hank retired, he and Peggy actually moved to Saudi Arabia, where they want to go and really upgrade their propane business, and then suddenly they decided they're finally going to go and retire and then come back to Arlen, Texas to go and live the rest of their lives. So yeah, it is going. So yeah, they're pretty much coming back to like a brand new world that they're going to be experiencing. So yes, there already is that factor, but at the same time, there's also going to be additional commentary about living in your later years, about how life is going to be after retirement, when your kid becomes an adult. What do you do now that you don't necessarily have a job to keep going and stuff like that? you know, like how can you go and try to fill your time with your significant other? Like there's a lot of these layers that they're going in where you got the familiar and you also got the fresh as well. I think honestly, Hulu might have another winner over here in terms of their animated revival. I mean, they already did a bang up job with Futurama and a few other shows. So I think King of the Hill might be another one where fans are going to be happy with what they'll get with season 14. I mean, there is that likelihood I could be wrong, but I will say that with the trailer that they displayed, it really gave out a strong impression of how this show is going to be. So if you are excited for season 14 of King of the Hill, then keep in mind that the show will be released on Hulu and or Disney Plus on August 4th. And with that said, now I would like to pass this on to the chat wall. And I'd like to ask you all, what did you think of that trailer of King of the Hill? Did you guys actually enjoy that? Are you guys a little bit iffy on it? And especially if you're a fan of the original King of the Hill, I would love to know what you think. In fact, I'm going to go and do another little poll over here. So I will go and ask you all, hold on a sec. Let me ask, did you, I'll ask the same question. Did you like the King of the, Hill trailer? So I'll write down a yes, and I'll also write down a no, and let's see what you all have to say. All right, so gotta be honest, I have never seen a single episode of King of the Hill, so honestly, I don't have much of a connection to the series, but I could definitely see how it will please fans of the show. The animation does stay true to the original, and it definitely feels like it's going to tackle subject matter, especially in modern times, and it's nice to see a lot of animated revivals lately, with this, the anticipated Gumball revival, and the recent Phineas and Ferb revival. Oh yeah, I mean, like, say what you will about how Disney is doing remakes, but when it comes to handling revivals for their animated shows or the animated shows that they own, my God, they have been on a roll, especially this year with what we've seen with Phineas and Ferb, and now we're going to be getting King of the Hill and Gumball. Well, I don't know if Gumball would count because technically, like, they're just hosting it on Hulu. Like, it's more WB's thing than Disney's thing. But still, though, I mean, I still stand that animated revivals that have been coming onto Hulu and or Disney Plus, they've been on a real roll now. Anyways, let's see. I really appreciate that they decided to have the characters age rather than have them stay the same as they were years ago. It worked fine with Beavis and Butthead, but I think having the characters age is a bold and unique choice and hopefully can use it to tell more interesting stories. Exactly. I mean, the whole thing with King of the Hill is that it's meant to be slice of life and is meant to go and reflect on modern times. Especially with the original run, it's going to be hard to like take the characters that we know and then suddenly you see Bobby on an iPhone or playing on the Switch or something like that. There would be something that feels like a weird disconnect. But with what they're doing right now, I think it really does add a very interesting layer where now they've gotten so much more material that they can go and work with. Essentially they could take that familiar formula of King of the Hill and they give it a very nice update that again doesn't just reflect upon modern times, but also reflecting upon the later years of people's lives. Like, how is life going to be after retirement? How is life when your kid is an adult and has moved out of the house and stuff like that? So there is that. I feel like it really does give a lot for King of the Hill to go and work with. Let's see now. This is a certified propane moment. Even though I'm not that familiar with King of the Hill, I've seen enough to know that they haven't missed a beat, particularly with the comedy. It kind of reminds me of the reboot of The Proud Family, in which it handles modern day issues, but still keeps the core of the original. I'm going to give it a watch when I have the time, but there are two things I have to say. A, justice for Jonathan Joss, and B, will Hank finally learn what a JPEG is? Oh, that would be a very good question. It would be a very nice throwback to see. I will say maybe. It's not going to be a guarantee. It's like, I wouldn't be surprised either way if he'll know what it is, or maybe he's still like kind of ignorant and just doesn't know what that is. And by the way, just on a quick side note, I gotta say, holy crap, it is almost unanimous with the exception of one vote. The grand majority of you have said that, yes, you did like the King of the Hill trailer. Like, definitely much more than the SpongeBob trailer, I must say. So they definitely did something right on that one. All right, let's see what other comments would there be. And by the way, yes, of course, justice for Jonathan Joss. I know it's like way late in the game, but hopefully we will see a tribute to Jonathan Joss in the show. Or who knows, maybe later on we will see a tribute to John Redcorn. Hopefully, like, they will go and address that. Let's see now. X-Men, Futurama, and now King of the Hill. Disney buying Fox really did do wonders for their animation legends. And by the way, just a quick side note, I just want to mention, you could technically include The Simpsons as well, because a lot of people would go and comment how Simpsons went on a downhill. But as of recent, considering how a lot of people have been talking about The Simpsons and that the quality of the show has been going uphill, you could say that's one of those things that Disney buying Fox actually did do good. It actually helped improve The Simpsons as well. So let me go back to the comment. Just like a quick side thing. I feel like the world needs a King of the Hill to lampoon conservatism in the age of Trumpism. Aging up the characters was a good choice. Keeping the characters the same age works with The Simpsons to varying degrees, but it wouldn't have worked for a King of the Hill revival. Can't wait to return to Arlen. Oh, yeah. I mean, I think it might be a little bit unavoidable that they would go and discuss about Trumpism. There are times when it would get political, and there's even a clip going around where you do see Hank Hill being a bit of a traditional Republican. I don't know if he would be like a Trump supporting Republican, but there was one clip going around where you see Hank Hill really admiring the George W. Bush Museum. So there is that factor that honestly, I would be curious to know what they would go and do. Anyways, I really appreciate that they decided to have the characters age rather than have them stay the same as they were years ago. It worked fine with Beavis and Butthead, but I think having the characters age is a bold and unique choice, and hopefully can use it to tell more interesting stories. Exactly, just like what I said. You brought it up very well there. Anyways, I remember watching King of the Hill when I was young during the time when it aired on Fox and later on Adult Swim, where unlike The Simpsons or Family Guy, the show is more grounded in reality than what you'd expect, seeing Hank and his neighbors on the alley drinking beer, and even Hank faces uncomfortable moments. So yeah, overall, I'm quite curious to see what this new season will come, and I hope it won't be too much political. We'll see, man. I mean, especially depending on what your definition of politics is. We'll see how that goes. Like I said, it's going to be unavoidable that they will talk about politics, but how much of that will they get into? I think it's more of a wait and see kind of thing. All right, let's see. I think I'll just read one more comment and then we'll be good to go on our next break. No, I've already read that one. I've already read... Crap, which one did I not read? Fudge. Let's see now. Where can I go? Who did I not read? Who did I... Oh, let's see. Oh, okay, I'll go with this, actually. In my own personal opinion, let's see now. In my own personal opinion, this seems a bit interesting and a little bit off to me, yet it's still kind of something to get used to maybe. I used to think King of the Hill was boring when I saw little bits of it before changing the channel. When I was a small kid back then, but I found kind of a newfound appreciation of the show through a few clips here and there, how Mike Judge got to animation in the first place, and Tariq's video about the question of does King of the Hill need to be animated? Oh, absolutely. Like, that is definitely worth checking out. Like, if you haven't seen Toonrific Tariq's video about that, please go and do so. Like, he does bring up some very interesting points. But yeah, so overall, if you are interested in checking out the King of the Hill revival, then keep in mind they will be coming out on Hulu and or on Disney Plus on August 4th. All right, so with that said, it is now time we are going to go on to our next break. But when we do come back, we are going to go and discuss about one of the biggest animated movies of the year and what could possibly be a key factor to the secret of its success. So stay tuned for that, and soon we will be turning up the music. Oh, wow, we're back. Oh, crap. Okay. I was not ready for that. Okay, anyways, yes, welcome back, everybody. Now, when it comes to our next story right over here, we are going to be talking about one of the biggest animated features of the year and one film that certainly just got its title. Well, not just got its title, but definitely earned it. KPop Demon Hunters, which is already a massive sensation on Netflix, and one could even argue that its popularity is already on par with some of the biggest movies that have been released in theaters, including Sinners, a Minecraft movie, and the Lilo and Stitch remake. Now, before I go and continue, there is one thing that I want to go and address because I've had people asking me this again and again. And that is specifically in terms of my review. When is that going to be coming out? Or specifically, when is that going to be coming out on YouTube? Since if you guys haven't heard, I have been having a little bit of trouble with that review, especially with the fact that unfortunately it has been blocked so far, mainly because I got a copyright strike from Netflix. But just to let you know, ever since I got that thing, or right when I got that thing, I am doing the best I can in order to go and take every action possible in order to take that down, and that soon you will go and see it on YouTube. But the best thing that I've done, of course, is to go and send a counter notification so that hopefully by 10 business days, it will be gone and you'll be able to see it. So with that said, if everything's all good, if nothing changes, if I don't get some weird sudden update about it, I think it should be fine by this Friday. So if I don't get any other warnings from Netflix or any other messages or anything like that, then the strike should be taken down by Friday. And from there, my review of KPop Demon Hunters will be released on YouTube. So hopefully that will go and answer your question. The YouTube version will be coming out this Friday if all goes well. In the meantime, I still have my Patreon if you guys want to go and check that out. But we're not here to go and talk about my thoughts on the movie because, well, you'll see how it is. What I will be talking about, however, is in regards to its popularity. Yes, let's get into how KPop Demon Hunters has become such a massive success on Netflix, where if I may go and if I go and read you here on my source here on Animation Magazine, where it states on its third weekend, per the platform's June 30th to July 6th numbers, KPop Demon Hunters has attained spots in the top 10 lists in all countries ranked, including number 2 on the English film list with an additional 22.7 million views. And so far, it has gotten, I believe, somewhere above 30 million. I wouldn't be surprised if by the time I'm recording this is already above like 40 million or something like that, or maybe around like 35. But still, though, it has been making some massively impressive numbers, and it is actually pretty common where we would go and see KPop Demon Hunters find itself somewhere on the top 10. Maybe it would be closer to number 1, maybe it would be closer to number 10. But either way, the fact that it would make it on that list, it's still massively impressive. But it is not just amongst the, it's not just on Netflix where it really got popular. It's also in terms of its music, where the popularity of the soundtrack is massive. In fact, if I may go and continue reading here, it even states that additionally, the movie's fictional rival bands, Saja Boys and Huntrix, also joined forces to surpass BTS and Blackpink respectively as the highest charting K-pop group in the US Spotify history. They took over the Billboard Global 200 too. Huntrix's Golden rose to number 2 on the chart, while Saja Boys' banger Your Idol ranked at number 10. The film's companion album achieved the biggest streaming week for a soundtrack since Barbie in 2023, climbing up 5 spots from last week to land at number 3 at the Billboard 200. So even unironically, as music artists, Huntrix has become a massive sensation. So that's why all across social media and with people talking about like some of the latest movies, one of the big ones that they would go and mention, of course, is in regards to K-pop Demon Hunters, especially to go and express their loves for the charismatic characters like Rumi, Mira, and Zoe, along with the soundtrack as well, with people really talking about songs like not just Golden and Your Idol, but I've also seen a lot of love where people would talk about how much they enjoy songs like Free or Soda Pop, Take Down, How It's Done also. Like a bunch of, like with all those, a lot of people are really getting into K-pop Demon Hunters, rather it be if it's regarding the movie itself or if it's in regards to the soundtrack. Now, what I want to do here is that I want to go and discuss about a significant factor as to how K-pop Demon Hunters became the animated phenomenon of this summer. And I know there's been a lot of talks, like a lot of people have already discussed about what is it that made K-pop Demon Hunters very popular nowadays, whether it be in terms of the movie itself or in terms of the soundtrack and all that kind of stuff. A lot of them have already said what needed to be said. But what I want to go and add to this piece is something that I would consider to be one of the secrets of K-pop Demon Hunters. What is it specifically that made K-pop Demon Hunters so big that it fell in the perfect circumstance to have its popularity become so big as it is today? Now, I'm going to just say this now, and I will be repeating it. I don't think it is the only reason why it became so beloved, why it became so popular and stuff like that. But I will say it is a key factor, one that should not be overlooked. And I gotta say, it's actually quite funny to see people go and mention how they're a little bit disappointed that they're not able to go and see K-pop Demon Hunters on the big screen. But I would disagree with that. Because I believe a big part to K-pop Demon Hunters' success is actually the fact that it is a streaming movie. The fact specifically that it was released on Netflix. And I'm not just saying that because of how movie theaters are right now and with all the big movies that are going to be releasing. It's the factor that it's almost as if K-pop Demon Hunters was indirectly tailor-made to be for Netflix, because the kind of people who would really want this kind of movie, they're actually all found on Netflix. And one thing that K-pop Demon Hunters did perfectly, especially in terms of the timing of its release, is actually because of the massive popularity of Korean media, specifically the kind that would be coming out on Netflix. Because as you guys probably know, Korean media, whether it be stuff like K-pop or K-dramas or anything like that, they have become massively popular. I mean, yes, it is true that they have always been a thing. It's always well known that, the K-pop, not K-pop, but I mean like with Korean media, there is always an audience, and there's an audience all around the world for it. But it's really thanks to Netflix. And actually, I wouldn't just say Netflix. It's also thanks to the Bong Joon-ho movie Parasite that really elevated its popularity, where in the 2020 decade, it is now absolutely mainstream. And why some of the biggest streaming shows and some of the biggest streaming movies, all of those, some of them are actually Korean media. And a big part of it, of course, like you got Squid Game, which is the most prominent example. And then you would have Crash Landing on You and Extraordinary Attorney Woo and all those kind of shows. And I just want to point to you this article right over here. This really emphasizes more of what I am talking about. This is from The Wrap, called Netflix's Love Affair with Korea Isn't Ending with Squid Game by Kayla Cobb. And it's a very fascinating article that really dives deep into how Netflix is really banking and finding amazing success with Korean media. And this is not just talking about Squid Game. In fact, let me just go and read you one excerpt in which it really goes into how Korean media really got popular, or how like the wave really started big. To which it states here, reading from my source on The Wrap, it says, the Korean wave first took off in the 1990s when shows like What is Love and Star in My Heart became popular in China. The phenomenon eventually began to emerge in Japan in the early 2000s, leading to an increase in Korean tourism, and had a niche following in the US. But it wasn't until Netflix entered the playing field and Parasite won the Oscar for Best Picture in 2020 that the K-content TV show game changed. K-drama has existed for a long time, since the 60s, but it was only with the entrance of Netflix where the production value really became higher, says Steve Cho, a scholar of Korean media, told The Wrap. Since Netflix's increased investment on K-content, Cho has noticed that more of his students are coming from places like the Middle East, Indonesia, South Asia, Latin America, and Europe. And right now, like, yeah, there are some outside factors like Parasite that played a factor, but especially with Netflix, and not to mention like the massive popularity of Squid Game, how that became a phenomenon. Like, yeah, Korean media was always a thing, but it wasn't until the 2020 decade began, and then it suddenly went mainstream. Like, some of the most talked about movies and shows are from Korean media, where people would go and be excited for what is to come, with what will be in store in South Korea. Like, what shows are they going to be releasing? Which ones are going to be coming out on Netflix? What movies will be coming out from filmmakers like Bong Joon-ho, which was why at the beginning of the year, there was a lot of hype for Mickey 17. And the big reason why people are just so hooked on Korean media, let me just go down a little bit, is actually right over here, in which they would go and state, at first glance, it may not seem like there's a common thread between a show about murderous children games like Squid Game or cross-border romance like Crash Landing on You. But for Cho, it is the easy morality of these universes that's appealing and even comforting to audiences. The source of distress are often broad and relatable, whether they be the weight of patriarchal system or the evils of capitalism. They're therapeutic for individuals around the globe who suffer because of circumstances beyond their control. Another reason for their popularity has to do with the production quality. Using its AI model that's been trained on social media responses, Diesel Lab found that people praise the lighting, costuming, twists, and character development of K-content. That's notable considering one of the big complaints about non-American shows is often that they look or feel cheap. So a big reason why people get so hooked on Korean media is actually because of not just the production quality really going all out, because with Korea, like, they don't hold back. Like, they will invest massive budgets and really make their films and shows look extraordinary, to be where they would feel like full-on Hollywood production quality projects that they would go and release, and not to mention like really going all out with the writing as well. But it's also in terms of the themes, the kind of themes that they would go into and really make a strong commentary about, rather it be Squid Game's commentary about capitalism, which, let's be honest, is really ironic with the way that Netflix would go and handle Squid Games and use that for their marketing, like ironically using it as a prominent example of their capitalism. Or even with Crash Landing on You, where they would go and talk about the patriarchal system, you know, a little bit of a similar commentary to what Barbie did in the 2023 movie. And honestly, when you go back to K-Pop Demon Hunters, there's a little bit of that same thing as well in terms of theming, that kind of comfort where they would go and address issues that people can go and actually relate with, which in K-pop's case is facing your inner demons. And it's something that everybody would go and face from time to time, where the inner demons would go and really chip away on your self-esteem and your self-love. So from there, with K-Pop Demon Hunters, they would try to go and really portray that in a bold and a very clear way, rather it be with Rumi, with her identity as a half demon, or how she would feel when she would be secretly hanging out with Jinu. So there is that element where you could tell there's that inspiration from K-drama storytelling that they would also implement onto K-Pop Demon Hunters to make it feel like it is a Korean movie, even though it's a film that is made in North America. But then there's also another factor that I want to bring up. It's not just the fact of its massive Korean theming that plays a significant factor to its success, and with the way that Netflix is really banking hard on Korean media, especially with stuff like Crash Landing on You or Squid Game. There's also the factor that it looks like an anime. Now, in terms of the animation, yes, a lot of it does look like it is, it does look like it's trying to be Spider-Verse. Like, I mentioned this in my review, but there's a lot about K-Pop Demon Hunters that really wants to go and emphasize that it's from Sony Pictures Animation, the studio that brought you the Spider-Verse movies and stuff like that. And you could see it in the animation where you could see some parallels, but unlike Spider-Verse, K-Pop Demon Hunters really emphasizes the anime look. Like, it wants to also really look like an anime, rather it be with the action when Huntrix is fighting the demons, or even with the comedic reactions, like whenever you would see Zoe or Mira when they're checking out the Saja boys and suddenly popcorn is coming out of their eyes. So you got those examples of anime. And that's also another major thing that Netflix is really banking on. It's the fact that anime is extremely popular on the platform. So I'm just going to be switching here on my source on The Hollywood Reporter, where it actually states here, according to Netflix, more than 50% of its members, amounting to over 150 million households or an estimated 300 million viewers, now watch anime. The company says anime viewership on the platform has tripled over the past 5 years, with 2024 marking a record-breaking year. 33 anime titles appearing in Netflix's global top 10 rankings, more than double the number in 2021. So that's also another significant factor, is that not only are Netflix audiences really craving for Korean media, rather it be like with the movies and shows, but they're also craving for anime as well. Hold on a sec. Oh boy, it's getting me choked up with how much they really want that, you know? So from there, you see a bit of that combination where you have a movie with K-Pop Demon Hunters where it's massively Korean themed and really goes into Korean culture, rather it be with the mythology of demons or especially with its music. And also you got the anime aspect as well. It's pretty much the kind of film where they know that the prime audience who would really want that the most is is on Netflix, because they already got a whole bunch of anime fans, and they made Netflix a platform that could actually compete against Crunchyroll in terms of a streaming service that would go and offer anime on a regular basis. And you also got the Korean media audience who craves for stuff like Squid Game. Like, it's a combination of those two. And I think I already said this, but it's like, yeah, I think I did say this, but K-Pop Demon Hunters is unintentionally tailor-made for Netflix, like for that to go and immediately find its audience and to have that really resonate with them. That's why, honestly, there's a part of me that does disagree with people about how this should have been released in theaters. Like, I understand the sentiment of wanting to see a movie like that on the big screen, but the problem is, I don't think it would have reached the massive success that it has now if it were released on the big screen, especially now that we're in the summer season and we're pretty much in a time where so many big movies are coming out week after week after week. Like, yeah, maybe there is a likelihood that K-Pop Demon Hunters would find some success and could actually turn a profit for Sony if it were released on the big screen, but not as much, especially when people would just immediately go and move on to go and talk about some of the other big movies that came out, such as Jurassic World or Superman or Fantastic Four and stuff like that. So by separating itself from the big screen releases and just be a streaming movie, from there, it gives audiences a chance to go and see it whenever they want and don't have to worry to go and actually make it a major event to go and actually see it in a theater. By treating it as a streaming movie, it actually is able to find that success in terms of the same levels that they would go and find, rather it be stuff like Sakamoto Days or even with Squid Game, that it's in its own, where it managed to find its own ranking where it would go and find great success that way. So that's what I want to go and bring up about. Again, I want to clarify, this is not the only reason why K-Pop Demon Hunters has been so successful, but I personally believe it is a key factor to go and bring up. The fact that it is a Netflix movie, the fact that it did not get released on the big screen is a big part to why K-Pop Demon Hunters is one of the biggest animated movies today, or at least one of the biggest animated movies in this year, pretty much. All right, so with that said, now I would like to go and pass this on to the chat wall, and I'd like to ask you all, what do you all think about the massive success of K-Pop Demon Hunters? And especially, what do you think about my personal theory about K-Pop Demon Hunters' success is attributed to the fact that it came out on Netflix? And if you have seen K-Pop Demon Hunters, I would love to know what you think on that. All right, so let's see what we got here. I absolutely love K-Pop Demon Hunters, but even I wasn't expecting it to be this bombastic. Between you and me, I was expecting Elio to be the sleeper hit. This isn't a complaint, however, since it is a phenomenal movie, though I have one to ask. Can we not use K-Pop Demon Hunters as an excuse to put down Elio? Looking at you, guy I just banned. But overall, it's safe to say that the Honmoon is safe. Yeah, honestly, I think that's one of the bad things about the K-Pop Demon Hunters phenomenon. It's just this toxicity that I've just noticed that's been going on. It's the way that people are trying to use the success of K-Pop Demon Hunters to once again just go after Disney, or specifically to go and attack Elio and to go and bash it and shame it because it did not do well at the box office. Like, people are just using it as materials to throw additional hate. I even heard that as I'm recording this, Saberspark recently put out a video where it's exactly that, using K-Pop Demon Hunters to just shamelessly attack Elio and labeling it as bad and just capitalizing on the Disney hate. I mean, for God's sakes, man, I'm glad that you've proven your innocence, but if you're just going to go back just grifting on the Disney hate, it's just like, honestly, did we save you? Like, were you saved for like freaking nothing at this point? So yeah, honestly, that's a toxic trait that we need to go and frickin' call out on. Honestly, like, it really shows how the Disney hate has really been nothing but a grift, especially it's just for the engagement. What's the point of like going after Elio if the crime that it committed is that it wasn't as successful and that you're just upset that it's not helping your stupid narrative of how animation is cinema? I'm just saying, like, honestly, that's like a whole other discussion, but it needs to be brought up in terms of the toxicity of the cartoon community and how the Disney hate has really gone way too far at this point. Like, especially the way that they're treating both K-Pop Demon Hunters and Elio. It's freaking stupid. It needs to be called out as wrong. Let's see what else we got here now. I will say that Huntrix is now becoming one of my most popular virtual artists, since the Gorillaz. Coming from a guy who never listened to K-pop, yes, the movie itself is freaking awesome, and Zoe is everything to me now. But the music is the best thing about the movie. Huntrix and Saja Boys are the only K-pop groups I'll ever listen to. I guess I was wrong about how K-pop not being popular like it used to be after this. So yeah, major congrats to the amazing crew at Sony Pictures Animation for this. Oh, absolutely. They honestly, like, even at that, like, Sony Animation deserves like a pat on the back for the work that they've done on it. Let's see now. I feel very happy for K-Pop Demon Hunters as they are getting so much positive attention. The one thing I'll say though, once again, is that I really hate it when people like Saberspark use the attention to dunk on Disney and Elio. It's the same thing that happened to Wish and Leo, and I'm just sick of it at this point. Like, just celebrate how good Demon Hunters is without being negative as well. On a lighter note, I like how they use the anime expressions on the characters. Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't say Wish and Leo. Like, back then, I would say it was more Wish and Trolls band together, which is such a weird comparison. And honestly, I feel like, in my opinion, that's not something to go and really prove your point of how Disney is bad. Like, if you're going to try to use a movie to go and compare to show, like, how Disney is inferior, can you at least try with a good movie, or at least a movie that is better than Wish? Because honestly, you can't use Trolls band together, and you can't use the freaking AI comment, because honestly, how else can you describe how those stupid, terrible villains were made? At least that's just in my opinion. Not to bash the people at DreamWorks for the work that they have done on it, but honestly, I'm just personally not a fan, and I still stand by that Wish is better than Trolls band together. It's a lot more, like, Wish is a lot more heartfelt and way better made than that film. I know it's a random tangent, but just throwing it out there. Let's see. Anyways, where do we got here? Okay. Anyways, I want to congratulate Maggie Kahn and Chris Applehouse on their film's success on Netflix. Not just the animation and fun characters, but the soundtrack is so good. I hope that they greenlight a sequel, as there is a lot more story to tell. Hey Matt, which is your favorite song of the film? If you are watching it again, have a bunch of Korean snacks like boba tea and bulldog noodles and eat them crazy like from the Huntrix scene. I don't know about Bulldog, because honestly, they can make some stupidly spicy stuff where you cannot just like go through that crazy. But if I would say, if there's one song that I would consider my favorite, or like, I'll give it, like, the soundtrack is like catchy as heck. But I would say my favorite is probably How It's Done. Like, I would go with that one. All right, I think I'll just read one more comment and then we'll be moving on to the next story. So, okay, let's see here. K-Pop Demon Hunters was definitely one of my favorite animated films that came out this year, and I could definitely see how it became successful, especially thanks to the popularity of Korean projects that really started with Squid Game and really benefited from being on Netflix. However, one thing I don't like about the animation community is to use it to hate on Elio. Case in point, Saberspark's recent video and that stupid thumbnail. Yeah. Honestly, at least it is good that we are calling out that stupid bullcrap. Like, at least we are emphasizing, like, how toxic it is. And the only reason that people would do so is just grifting for views and engagement. But still, though, again, congratulations to the Sony Animation team for the success that they are getting with K-Pop Demon Hunters. All right, so with that said, now we're going to go on to our next break. And when we do come back, I'm going to go and talk about one movie that is actually way more popular than K-Pop Demon Hunters. Yes, I would even say that it is the biggest animated feature of the year, even compared to K-pop. Which one is it? Well, we're about to find out when we come back, and I will bring you all back to China. All right, welcome back. Now, when it comes to our next story, I'm going to go and talk about the biggest animated feature of the year. And no, it is not K-Pop Demon Hunters. What I am referring to, of course, is Ne Zha 2. And I know there are probably some different ways to go and pronounce it. I'm just going with Ne Zha because that's how they say it in the movie, or at least in the original Chinese version of it. Like whenever you would hear a character like, talking to him, they would go like, Ne Zha, stuff like that. So that's why I'm just going with Ne Zha. I know some people might say that maybe it's pronounced Ne Zha or Ne Zha or something like that. Although I'm not going to use the latter because it sounds a little too much like a slur. So I'm just going to go with Ne Zha. But anyways, yes, let's go and discuss about Ne Zha 2, considering how that became not just the biggest animated feature of the year, but the biggest animated feature in history, where the grand majority, or I would even say almost all of its box office earnings was actually just in China alone, where it managed to make around $2.2 billion at the box office, not only making it the first ever animated feature to cross that $2 billion mark, but also to make it among the top 5 highest grossing films in history, right behind the two Avatar movies, Titanic and Avengers Endgame. So it really is a monumental moment in animation. However, it looks like later this year, Ne Zha is going to be making a comeback. And no, I'm not saying that there's immediately going to be a Ne Zha 3 coming soon, although I wouldn't be surprised if that would be the case eventually. But what I'm talking about is actually a version of the movie where you don't have to read the subtitles. Yes, we are going to be getting an English version of Ne Zha 2. Yes, this is actually thanks to A24 teaming up with CMC Pictures in order to bring back Ne Zha to the big screen, but this time in English. They are going to be making an English dub, so you wouldn't be surprised that would be the case. But they have also stated not only will this be in theaters in a major way, where this is going to be coming out in the regular version, in 3D, and in IMAX, but they have also confirmed the release date of it, where it will be coming to theaters specifically in the US, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand on August 22nd. So it's a little over a month from now, but still, though, it is something that is worth anticipating for, especially to go and hear it in a new way. But other than that, though, there is no other confirmation about this, especially in terms of the English cast. With one exception, however, because with this announcement, on top of coming out in November, they did confirm that Michelle Yeoh is going to be in the cast. However, they did not say specifically who is she going to play. The most that they have stated is just that she's going to be in a lead voice role, and that's pretty much it. However, we did get a quote from Michelle Yeoh herself, in which she has stated, reading from my source over here, in which she stated, "I'm honored to be part of Ne Zha 2, a landmark in Chinese animation and a powerful reminder of how universal our stories can be. Sharing this with audiences in English is such a joy, and I can't wait for everyone to experience the wonder, heart, spectacular artistry, and the magic of this film on the big screen." And by the way, just to go and give you a little bit of a summary, for those of you who are not as familiar with Ne Zha 2, I'll go and read you a few descriptions about the movie, or at least the movie and the character, in which it states here, the franchise's story follows the rebellious young demigod Ne Zha, born to mortal parents and feared by the heavens, as he wrestles with immense powers and a destiny to face an ancient force bent on humanity's destruction. So, in a way, think of Ne Zha as, I mentioned this in my review, but think of Ne Zha as China's version of Stitch. And specifically about Ne Zha 2, it says here, directed by Yang Yu, who is also known as Jiaozi, the film is the long-awaited sequel to 2019's Ne Zha, a modern reimagining of the mythological Chinese folk hero that became a cultural phenomenon and a milestone for Chinese animation. Ne Zha 2 builds on that legacy with a continuation of the saga, blending high-concept storytelling with even more impressive visual spectacle. So once again, just to go and remind you that with this English dub, that's going to be coming out on August 22nd. And I just want to go and say this, like I know I already mentioned this, but I have already talked about Ne Zha 2. I mean, of course, earlier in the year in this podcast, you have heard me discuss about Ne Zha 2's box office performance and the shocking way that it was able to go and quickly surpass Inside Out 2's record in order to go and become the new highest grossing animated feature of all time, along with breaking some phenomenal records. But I must say, when it comes to the movie itself, and I've already reviewed the feature, I gotta say that it's honestly one of the best animated features of the year. It's already high ranked up there. I would even say it is way better than K-Pop Demon Hunters. If the internet is going to be playing that comparison game, then yeah, K-Pop has nothing on this little demon right over here. It is such a masterfully epic movie. Like, honestly, it's crazy how this is like one of the longest animated features out there. Like, I think the running time is like 2 hours and 20 minutes, but it doesn't feel that long. And it is able to go and keep up such an amazing fast pace filled with awesome action and beautiful animation, may I add, as well as really embracing Chinese mythology to go and create its epic world building. It's honestly a movie that I must say that I highly recommend that you go and check out whenever you can. I mean, unfortunately, we might have missed the opportunity to go and check it out when it was originally released back at the beginning of the year. Like, there was a little moment where in selected theaters, people can go and check out the original version of Ne Zha 2. But now, they're going to be bringing out an updated version in which they will be having an English dub. So now we are actually going to have a second chance. I mean, well, okay. Technically, I already got my chance. I already did see that on the big screen, and I'm really happy that I've done so. But now that we got the English dub, like, honestly, I'm glad that people can get that chance and that people can go and actually check out Ne Zha 2. Because again, it's a movie that I really enjoyed. I think it's one of the best movies of the year even, not just one of the best animated features. And it's something I highly recommend that you guys go and actually check out. And if you need to go and check out the first Ne Zha, that's no problem because you can actually go on YouTube. It's actually uploaded on for free in there. So you can go and watch the original on YouTube, go get some context, and then you could go and watch Ne Zha 2. And the fact that they are getting the fact that they're getting an English dub, I think honestly that is unavoidable. But still, though, I gotta say, it's great. It's great to see that now the popularity will still be continuing. And I don't know how big it's going to be when that will be coming out in theaters. But then again, it is going to be released at the end of the summer. So it's not going to get massively cluttered by all the other major summer movies. It's not like Superman or, it's not like either Superman or Fantastic Four is going to completely overshadow Ne Zha 2 when the English dub is going to be coming out. But with that said, though, there is something I do want to go and address, and there is a little bit of a question that I want to ask because I feel like it's a little bit confusing. And that is regarding the fact that the first actor that they're bringing on board here is Michelle Yeoh. And I'm not saying this because I question the casting of Michelle Yeoh. I completely get it, especially when not just the fact that Michelle Yeoh is also part Chinese, but it's the fact that she is an incredible actress. She has proven her worth as an actress. She's got incredible talent, and the movie itself is very lucky to have her be a part of the English cast. That I am not questioning whatsoever. It's great that they actually did get Michelle Yeoh. In fact, her recent Oscar actually did prove that, yeah, she's got the talent needed for you know, to be part of a historical animated feature like Ne Zha 2. But my question is, though, who is she gonna play? Because if you guys know Ne Zha 2, it has a very prominent male cast. Like, the grand majority of people that you actually see in the movie, most of them are just male. There are very few female characters that you can actually find in this. Like, now, I don't know if maybe they'll want to have Michelle Yeoh actually be, you know, like to have her actually play as Ne Zha. I don't know if that could actually be the case. I mean, maybe they would. They'd probably have some kind of idea. But thinking about Michelle Yeoh's voice, like, generally, like, when you listen to her performance, rather it be in, rather it be like with her live action roles, like in Everything Everywhere All at Once, or even in her animated roles that she would do, like when she was in Minions: The Rise of Gru, like, she does have the voice of an older woman. Like, I can't really imagine that she would play as Ne Zha, like, if her voice can be passed off as a kid voice. Honestly, I can imagine, like, she would be playing one of the adult women roles. But then again, that also brings up a weird thing, because technically the women role, the most prominent women roles in this, they're not really as prominent per se. They're kind of like, you know, they're like secondary roles at best. Like, the two characters that I can imagine that Michelle Yeoh is going to play is either Ne Zha's mother, which, yeah, she does have a prominent role, but I will admit it's not as big as in the first movie, where, like, they would use a lot of her talent. So, I don't know, like, Michelle Yeoh would just be appearing, like, just little bits at a time as the mother. Or another one, and I think that might be the more, you know, that might be more likely. I can imagine they're going to cast Michelle Yeoh as the Dragon Queen. If you guys don't know, in the movie, the main villains are actually the Dragon Kings. Not just the Dragon King of the East, but also you got, you got the Dragon King of the North, West, and South. And one of them is actually a woman, which is the Dragon Queen. And I just gotta say, like, I know there might be a little bit right now, but let me just go and check, like, let me just go and show it to you. But I feel like in Ne Zha 2 with the Dragon Queen, oh my god, it's even one of the first searches. But this is a character that a lot of people would simp for. Like, this is, yeah, Ao Leung, yeah, like, yeah, specifically the character Ao Leung, Dragon Queen of the Western Sea, or technically Dragon King. But yeah, like, they portray her as like this femme fatale type of character that you would see. Like, this is definitely the kind that people would look at her and they would absolutely say would. Like, just to go and show you some examples of the character design that they have built for her. At least this is her human form when she would go and show up. And once again, this is like one of the villain characters that they have. And I will say, once again, I would not be surprised if this is going to be Michelle Yeoh's character, considering they say it's a lead role. So yeah, why not have her play one of the villains? I think it might be the most likely case, but I don't know, maybe A24 might have some other plans with her, but again, either way, I'm not going to complain. It's already a plus that they got Michelle Yeoh in the English cast. So, with that said and done, oh, wow. I already see there's already some people like, well, the point is already standing that, yeah, there are some people already simping in the chat for the Dragon Queen here. But if you are excited for Ne Zha 2 having its English dub be released in theaters, then keep in mind it's going to be coming out on August 22nd. And with that said, now I would like to go and pass this on to the chat wall. And I'd like to ask you all, what do you all think about Ne Zha 2 coming out with its English dub later this summer and having Michelle Yeoh in the cast? And especially if you have seen Ne Zha 2, I would love to know your thoughts about this. All right, so let's see what we got here. It's really cool to see A24 get into the animation industry, even if it's only for distribution. I love to see them make their own animation films and add their own unique spin to them, as they usually do with their live action ones. It'll be awesome if they did an animated slasher film like Scream in the style of a DreamWorks movie. I mean, who knows? I mean, it would be nice, like, considering with the type of unique art house films that A24 brings out, it would be cool to see what they would do with an animated movie. Although I do understand nowadays, A24 is kind of losing its steam. Like, the stuff that they put out is no longer as like widely acclaimed as what they used to. In fact, some people could say that the way some people are viewing A24 is kind of like how the cartoon community is viewing Disney and Pixar. But with that said, though, yeah, I would be down to see what A24 would do with animation. Anyways, let's see here. Ne Zha 2 getting an English dub is honestly pretty questionable at this point, since I saw both the first film and the sequel in its original native language. I'll personally stick with the original version since watching movies with subtitles is an experience for me. Sorry, A24. Speaking of Chinese cinema, we're getting a new Tom and Jerry movie being produced in China. I can't wait to see it. It's called Tom and Jerry Forbidden Compass. Yeah, I know. I actually did hear about it. It's honestly weird, considering that pretty soon it's actually going to be coming out, and yet nobody seemed to know it. And some articles did actually describe it best, that it's like this secret movie that China has been making behind the scenes. But yeah, they wanted to go and make their own Tom and Jerry movie. Now, of course, it is specifically for China, in which there will be elements of Chinese mythology that's going to be blended in. And I'm not going to lie, like, looking at some of the photos and stuff like that, it looks like it looks like it's the Tom and Jerry equivalent of Minions: The Rise of Gru, where there is a little bit of that, there is a little bit of that lore. There is a bit of that plot line that is into it, considering that with Minions: Rise of Gru, that is another movie that has a lot of Chinese influence, especially at the end when you see all like a lot of the characters turn into the zodiac animals, where you got the villains portrayed as like the big, like the big scary ones, and then you got the minions where they're transformed as like a chicken, a goat, and a bunny and stuff like that. So yeah, from there, I guess we're gonna see something I would like to describe as Tom and Jerry: The Rise of Gru. Anyway. Oh, and actually another comment I want to go and make. I would love to see the original Ne Zha in the original Chinese dub. Honestly, like, I watched it in the regular English dub where you would find it on YouTube. And there's something about it that it feels a little bit weird. Not to go and discredit the cast who did work on it. I don't know. For me, the one thing that just feels very off-putting is to hear Mike Pollock as the mentor of Ne Zha. And it sounds exactly like what you think. It's his regular voice that you could tell that it's a little bit of a similar like Dr. Eggman vibe that he would do, and just hearing him play that character and acting like a drunk and stuff like that is just, I don't know. It's just, for me, it doesn't work. It's just like, can I get someone else who I don't recognize? I'm just saying. Or like, give me someone who I can recognize and like, I could see him play the role of that character. I don't know. I just feel like Ne Zha's mentor and Mike Pollock, it doesn't mix, you know? Okay, anyways, I haven't seen Ne Zha 2 yet because I didn't get it in my theater, but considering I've heard good things about it, it's nice to see that it will get an English dub. Hot take, I kind of prefer the English dub for projects instead of English subs because I'm not big on the subtitles, but again, that's my take. But you know what? I'm just going to go and say that a lot of people will feel that way. That's why, honestly, I'm personally excited for the English dub to come out because I know there's a lot of people whom they wouldn't be as interested in checking out Ne Zha 2 because it would just be a sub. But then you would have an English dub of it where the characters would be speaking English, and that actually does open the door for more people to go and actually experience it. Again, I really want more people to go and watch Ne Zha 2 because it is such an epic movie. It is a fantastic film, and I still stand it's one of the best animated movies this year. So in that regard, honestly, if it requires an English dub for more people to go and watch it, I'd be all open for it. All right, so with that said, I think it is now time we'll go on to our final break. And when we do come back, we're going to go and talk about an actor strike. Yes, there have been more actor strike after 2023, but this one, I got to say, I'm finally glad that it is over because, man, was that a long battle. So stay tuned for that. And now, everyone, it is time that we will go and end this episode off with the grand finale. And for this grand finale, I will be talking about, yes, an actor strike. Now, probably the most prominent one that many of you are familiar with was back in 2023. When SAG-AFTRA completely went on strike alongside the Writers Guild of America. And it was a successful run. I mean, it took a few months, but they were able to go and get what they asked for. Not just with better pay and better benefits, but also, especially, with AI protection. But it's not just the regular actors that you would see on screen that wanted that. Because following afterwards, a year later, another group of actors demanded that they want those same protections, and they went on strike. However, their battle was much longer. In fact, I'd even say that it almost lasted a year. In fact, as I am recording this, we're almost at 1 year exactly. Just a few days from now, it would be like exactly 1 year since that strike actually started. But thankfully, it won't cross that 1 year mark because it is official. The strike is over. Specifically, the SAG-AFTRA video game strike. It is now officially complete. And now the voters have actually voted and they said that, yes, we would like this agreement and it has been ratified. In fact, speaking of those voters, it was like the grand majority. It was almost unanimous even that they wanted this to go and happen. In which, just to go and quickly read you from my source here on The Hollywood Reporter, that more than 95% of voting members supported the deal reached in early June, while less than 5% voiced their opposition, SAG-AFTRA announced on Wednesday. So the thing is that they did get their deal back in June, but then the whole committee had to go through the process of checking if everything is good. And then they went and asked the actors and the members to go and vote to see if they're cool with it. And almost everyone has pretty much said, yes, it is the deal that they are looking for. And the big thing that they were able to finally get, The one thing that they have been demanding, of course, it is protection from AI. And I'm just going to go and switch from my source here to Reuters, in which it does describe the benefits that they have received, in which it actually states here, the new protections include consent and disclosure requirements for AI digital replica use and the ability for performers to suspend consent for the generation of new material during a strike. So from there, now the actors have full control over AI, or specifically, they have full control if they want to have their image, or in this case, their voice, to go and be used to feed the AI system. If they're not comfortable with it, then they are in their rights to go and actually say no. So giving the actors that full power in terms of wanting to be involved with AI, that's amazing. But that's not just the only thing, however. They even stated right over here that some of the other benefits that they are getting as well includes more performer safety measures, which is a specific concern for motion capture video game performers, as well as motion capture actors will have medics available during high-risk jobs. And this one is not necessarily just for voice actors. This is specifically for motion capture actors because maybe you wouldn't think about it, but yeah, motion capture can often be a pretty dangerous job, and they would be demanded to do some crazy stunts. Like, think about a fighting game, for example, when you would have a motion capture actor to do all these crazy moves, like all these punches and kicks and stuff like that. Yeah, sometimes they could really go all out, and sometimes they would put themselves in some crazy and dangerous situations. So having more protection for those guys and making sure that you can have everything prepared in case maybe things go wrong, that's also a good thing. So honestly, for motion captures, for motion capture performers, yes, like getting more protection for them and making sure that they can have all the safety measures they need to do their performances, that's also a great thing. And then, of course, you also have some other benefits, like right over here, in which it says the deal also provides compounded increases in performer pay at a rate of 15.17% upon ratification, plus additional 3% increases in November of 2025, November of 2026, and November of 2027. Now, just quickly, just jumping back to the Hollywood Reporter article, we even got a quote that is coming from the union's National Executive Director, Duncan Crabtree Ireland, in which he stated here, all of us at SAG-AFTRA would like to extend our deepest appreciation to the video game performers and allies who endured a great deal of sacrifice throughout the 11-month strike. Now that the agreement is ratified, video game performers will be able to enjoy meaningful gains and important AI protections, which we will continue to build on as uses of this technology settle and evolve. And this is a deal that several companies have to now go and abide to, in which it's also worth noting to add right over here. During the strike, performance capture and voice actors ceased working from household names like Activision Productions, Electronic Arts Productions, and Insomniac Games, Disney character voices, Formosa Interactive, WB Games, Take-Two Productions, Blind Light, and Llama Productions were also subject to the labor action. So, yeah, you can imagine that those studios were affected, but now actors can get back to work with those studios now with this new deal that is agreed upon. And I gotta say, as a fellow actor myself, even though I am not I'm not a SAG-AFTRA member yet, although definitely one of my goals there. I mean, I've made it so far as ACTRA, or at least apprentice ACTRA, but I mean, hey, you know, acting goals, you know, getting into the union. But with that said, though, it's honestly, I'm glad and very relieved to see this finally being over, because as I mentioned before, when it comes to AI, some of the most vulnerable people who would be affected by this are indeed voice actors, especially voice actors that don't have like a massive prominent name for themselves. Yeah, they'll have some protection in terms of their voicing in like TV shows and movies, but when it comes to other stuff like video games or anime, especially, like that's a whole other story right there. Audiobooks, commercials, and stuff like that. Yeah, they're still pretty vulnerable because companies are more willing to go and actually use AI in order to replace the actors. Like, cut out the middleman. They'll just have a voice, they'll just have an AI voice to do the job, to do like 15 seconds of whatever commercial they want to go and make or something like that, and they'll just be done with it, which is why this is such a grueling battle for actors to go through. And I mean, keep in mind, technically, they spent like 11 months trying to go and fight this. And the reason why it really took this long is actually because of the AI protection. Studios are just being very stubborn in terms of not wanting to go and offer that because they're still on that high of thinking that AI is the future and that they could save up a lot of money on that. But actors have been fighting again and again and trying to make a massive stand to be against that, to say that we want to work, but we want to work and ensure that our jobs are safe from all that. And the thing is that unfortunately, there have been some situations where they could be extremely messy and that they would stir a lot of controversies along the way. And probably the biggest example is Hoyoverse. And maybe you guys have probably heard about this. I know I talked about it one time in this podcast, but Hoyoverse, the people that made Genshin Impact, they were at the point where they decided they don't want to wait for the strike to be over, and they didn't even agree on an interim deal with the actors to go and come back. So what they decided to do is to go and hire other actors. They decided to go and bring in other actors to step up and replace some of the original ones who have been providing their voices for a while, but because they didn't want to go back, they didn't want to scab, which is the term that actors would use or that strikers would go and use in order to get back to work. And that right there caused like a whole mess on the situation. And it really did highlight the complexity of this strike and the complexity of the entire industry where, yeah, it wasn't fun. And unfortunately, yeah, there have been technically some casualties along the way where actors did lose their jobs because of this strike, that even if it is done, they won't be able to go back into their roles because there is a likelihood that they've been replaced in all this. But at least we can pretty much say that while it hasn't been the cleanest and there have been a few controversies that did happen around during that time, at least we could go and say that it is finally over and that actors can go back to working on whatever projects that they could go and work on, or that they could go back and actually perform in video games and stuff like that, knowing that now now their jobs are pretty much secure and they wouldn't have to be scared about AI potentially replacing them and stuff like that. Now, is this going to say that this is going to cause the decline of the use of AI? Not necessarily, unfortunately, because keep in mind, this is in terms of union jobs. You also got to keep in mind that there is still a whole bunch that is also independent, and not just independent. It's also the fact that it is non-union, that they would also bring in a whole bunch of non-union actors to go and actually do these performances. And yeah, there will be those that they'll have to subject themselves to providing their voices and read like line after line after line after line, and they'll just be paid like a flat fee just so they can go and supply the AI, just give materials to the AI systems. That's still unfortunately going to go and happen, but that's like a whole different ballpark. Like that, again, that's just mostly for non-union. And that's why, like, even with non-union, there can be some risks that can be involved. But at least in terms of union actors, as at least with SAG-AFTRA, like they could be safe. Like they could go back to Disney, they could go back to Activision, they could go back to many of those, and they'll know that when they're going to be working, they won't have to be scared about their future in terms of who's going to be using AI, are we going to be replaced by machines and all that kind of stuff. At least they could put that worry to bed. So yeah, I will say, like, as an actor and as a supporter of other actors, I'm glad to see that they could put that fear to rest and that the strike is officially done. It's been such a long journey. Again, it's been almost a year that they've gone through it, but it shows the persistence of actors. It shows that they don't give up. They will do what it takes, and they'll do it for as long as it takes in order to get what they're asking for, because this isn't just a fight for these actors in particular. This is also for the future of acting, also for people who do want to be involved with the union and that they hope to go and work for these companies, even if it is just for like video games, or rather they be like in movies and TV shows or whatever. They want to make a stand that they don't want to be replaced by AI. And after all this time, I'm glad to see they finally got what they wished for. And I congratulate all the actors at SAG-AFTRA for enduring this long battle, and that they finally were able to get what they asked, especially for the AI protection. Hopefully they could get back to work. They could go back doing what they love with voiceovers and motion capture, and they could go and be relieved that their future, at least for now, it's safe. They won't have to think about AI as a threat to their career. All right, so with that said, now I would like to pass this on to the chat wall, and I'd like to ask you all, how do you feel about the video game SAG-AFTRA strike finally being over? I would like to know your thoughts, or if you're an actor, I mean, I don't know if you are, but if you are a SAG-AFTRA member, I would love to know what you think on that. All right, anyways, let's see what the chat has to say right over here. This is definitely a big win. After almost a year on strike, I'm glad that the people who worked on video games finally got what they want, and I hope that they have a better future, although I definitely don't think this will slow down or get rid of AI entirely, and there have definitely been some examples. Case in point, the whole controversy with Fortnite and the fact that they use an AI voice for James Earl Jones for Darth Vader. Oh, yeah. That's honestly one that I do know. Like, honestly, I get, like, I know there is that controversy where with Disney in general, they have considered using AI, or they have used AI in order to get like young versions of Luke Skywalker, or especially with Darth Vader. And yeah, that was a little bit of a yikes that they would try to go and use Darth Vader. They would use an AI James Earl Jones voice for Darth Vader. I mean, at that point, I feel like the more I think about it, the more it's just absolutely stupid. I mean, Darth Vader is one of the most iconic villains in pop culture history. You cannot find one actor who can do an amazing Darth Vader impression. I feel like it's one of those that, like, almost everybody tries to do to varying degrees. I mean, I'm sure you probably heard a relative that just fools around, pretends to be Darth Vader, like, Luke, I am your father. So in that regards, there's bound to be one that would nail that performance who sounds exactly like James Earl Jones. Just get that guy on board, let him perform, and be on your merry way. Let the actor do their thing. I'm sure there's plenty who can do an amazing Darth Vader. You don't need AI to do the job for you. All right, let's see now. This looks like that's asking another commenter. Let's see. I'm glad this is over. I would say that I'm glad the video game voice actors deserve. I would say that I'm glad the video game voice actors deserve so much respect for their amazing work, like Jen Taylor voicing Cortana in Halo games. She was also part of the strike for a while. Oh yeah, definitely. And trust me, like I can speak by experience. It is hard work. Like trust me, like video game voices, like they could be the most grueling for your throat, depending on which character they would ask you to do. Like, I've often told people, like, I was the final boss in a Warhammer game called Necromunda Underhive, and afterwards my voice was like, it was torn up. It was like so worn, you know? Like, I had to spend, like, even though it was just an hour of recording, and I was just there like, miserable cars! I will go and destroy anyone who will break my path! Doing that for a long time, I needed some tea to relieve my voice. And not even that, but even like monster voices as well. Like, they can really bring out a lot for you. Like, I actually was, I voiced one of the monsters in Bendy and the Dark Revival. Like, I was one of the characters. Like, I was the guy. I was like the guy who's like his head is on a fishing rod. Like, I had to, like, I didn't do the speaking role. I didn't do the speaking lines, but I had to do the monster noises. Like, I had to be there like, so imagine doing that like again and again and again. Oh boy, like it's taxing for your throat. Like already, like just doing those two voices. Oh boy, it's already it's already hurting. Like I can already feel it right over here. Hey boy. So yeah, like honestly, it's one of those things that you really got to understand that video game voice actors, they really do give it their all to do every little noise, big and small. And sometimes it can be really taxing on their throat. And they absolutely deserve respect. And they absolutely deserve what they've been asking for, rather it be like AI protections or benefits to go and like help them even medically or even better pay. Honestly, yeah, like they need that. It's a lot of work. All right, there's not as much comments. I'll just go and read one more here. And let's see. I am glad that the actor strike is finally over. Hope the cast members are treated better, including the video game industry. Please, no more AI. That is for lazy that is for lazy people. Real voices for life. And I think that could actually do it. It's a perfect way to go and cap off this episode. And that should do it for this episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. Thank you all so much for joining me on this. What a wild ride it has been. And I gotta say, it's been, it's definitely been fun. And I'm glad that this episode turned out to be nice. And I hope you all enjoyed this as you are watching or listening to this. And I just want to go and cap this off by saying that if you guys would like to go and follow for more crazy adventures on AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast, and you want to hear more stories of what I have to say about some of the recent wacky news happening in animation and more, then all you have to do is subscribe to the AniMat Live Twitch channel or on the AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast YouTube channel. At the same time, though, don't forget to go and follow me on whatever podcast service you're listening to right now. Rather it be on Spotify, Amazon, Apple, or more, there's a lot more to come with AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. As long as there are some crazy animation news out there, or some crazy news in general, you know that there's going to be more madness over here. So with that said and done, I would like to say thank you all so much for listening. Thank you all so much for watching. And until next time, see you later, dudes.